Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel. This story ain't over. Today, I'm super excited to tell you all about my autumnal reading plans. So it has been a minute since I did a TBR video or a reading plans video, and I thought this was the perfect time to do it because there are only a few months left of the year, which I'm just gonna start crying about because I can't believe it's already September. But there are a few months left of the year and I feel like I am ready to knock some books off my TBR. This is gonna be a TBR for mainly September, October, and November. I'm gonna leave December a little bit ambiguous because I'm not sure how much reading I'll get done around the holiday times, but I'm really excited to read this fall and get through a lot of books that I've been really excited to get to and that also fit the vibe of the season, which is fall. So as you can see, I have all of my fall decorations out because spooky season is to die for, and I am just so excited for like Halloween, for pumpkin patches, and for all the fall things. My birthday is also in the fall. It's October 2nd, so I'm just really excited for the season overall. Now, before we get into the books for this fall, I have a really exciting fall announcement that has to do with the sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. So for many of you who have been following me for a very long time, you know that Book of the Month is an online book service for readers where you can choose from a curated selection of books to grab a book in your Book of the Month box each month. And it's super affordable for hardcover adult book releases. But for today's video, I'm super excited to announce for all of my wonderful Canadians out there that Book of the Month is coming to Canada this fall. As many of you know, I am Canadian, and a lot of you have been asking me in the comments of my videos, you know, when is Book of the Month going to start shipping to Canada? And a lot of you have been also requesting this from Book of the Month itself, and finally they are answering your calls. They are coming to Canada. I'm so excited for all my Canadians who will finally be able to take advantage of Book of the Month service. They curate wonderful selections of early and new release titles for you to pick from and get in your Book of the Month box each month. And this way you can spend less time scrolling through your feeds trying to find your next read and simply just reading. If you're excited about this as I am, I highly recommend going to the link in my description at www.bookthemonth.com/ca, and this is where you can sign up to receive updates on the new Canadian launch. And while you're reading, I highly recommend going and checking out Book of the Month's podcast. It's available on Spotify and Apple, and it's called Virtual Book Tour. And there are multiple conversations with authors of the books that have been selected in Book of the Month. Super excited for this new announcement and for all the things to come in the fall. So let's get into the books I'm going to be reading in the next few months, and thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Alrighty, so as I said, I have a few different categories of books that I want to tackle for this fall, and the first set of books is a bunch of anticipated releases that have recently came out that I cannot wait to dive into. So there are about 5 or 6 of them. One of them I don't have with me, but I'm hoping to grab very soon. So that one is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. Tiffany D. Jackson is one of my favorite authors ever. She's an incredible YA author who writes a lot of amazing YA fiction, mostly contemporary, thriller, and horror, and this is her second ever horror, and I personally loved her previous one, which was like a haunted house story. So this one is a bit of a slasher set at prom, I believe, and overall I'm just excited for the vibes. I love the covers, so cannot wait to get into this one, and this one I believe just released, so I'm going to be grabbing a copy very soon. Next I have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This one is one that I've been waiting so long for, and I'm so excited that I finally get to read it. I have started this one. I'm not going to tell you my thoughts yet. I'm probably going to do a whole video on this book and a few other anticipated releases that I'm excited to read. Very excited to pick this one up also because it just fits the vibe of the season. It has like slight dark academia vibes, so I feel like I'm just gonna love diving into this. And as someone who has done school now and like just working full time, I think school setting books or like university setting books are a lot of fun to read now because I no longer have this like angsty feeling when I think about school because I'm no longer in it. So I think this will be an enjoyable read. I've already heard so many amazing things and I just can't wait to get into it. Another book that I'm going to be picking up is What Souls Are Made Of by Tasha Suri. I'm super excited for this one because it is a remix of Wuthering Heights, the classic by Emily Bronte, which is personally one of my favorite classics ever. I love sort of the gothic vibes of it, and I love the like tragic romance. And this book in particular is actually a remix with South Asian main leads. So this whole series of books is like remixes of classic tales with BIPOC main characters and written by BIPOC authors. And so I'm I'm just so excited for this entire like concept, but also the fact that it's Wuthering Heights. I feel like Tasha Suri's books have been a little hit or miss for me. I have liked some and not as much loved the others, or like they didn't live up to my expectations. So I am sort of tampering my expectations for this one, also because it's a YA and I haven't been enjoying those a lot recently. But regardless, I think it'll be fun and I'm excited for the Wuthering Heights vibes, but I'm gonna like keep in mind that it's probably gonna be quite different. The next book is one that I'm not actually sure if it's spooky, but I feel like anything this author writes is usually a little spooky. So that book is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is Sylvia Moreno Garcia's newest book, and I have been in love with all of her previous books. I read a lot of them last fall, so this is the perfect time to be diving back into her books, and I'm excited for this one because it's a retelling of the story of the island of Dr. Moreau. I'm not super familiar with it, but I believe it has like a sci-fi element to it, and I'm just intrigued in general, and I just love the way that Sylvia Moreno Garcia writes her stories and her characters. So I think I'm gonna love this one, and I just can't wait to pick it up. Next, I have an arc that I am dying to read. The book is actually coming out in November, so I'm hoping to read this before then. But that book is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is the sequel to Legendborn by the author, which is the first book in the series, and it was an incredible release from I think 2020. It is sort of like an urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy, and really toes the line between like reality and, you know, the fantastical. And it specifically tackles the legend of King Arthur, but with a Black main character. What I loved about the first book was not only the amazing themes that it tackled, but the wonderful plot twist and just like the little breadcrumbs that the author would leave behind for you to figure out. It also has a pretty nice love triangle going on, which I actually really like. I personally like the more bad boy character, and I just cannot wait to see what happens with him in this book. So yeah, really excited to see where the story goes in this one, and I've heard it already has some like mind-blowing moments to it, and I just can't wait to read it and see how it goes. The next book is one that is totally not on theme for the fall, but I do want to get to this new release, though I have been hearing some mixed reviews on it, so we'll see how it goes. But that book is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is the author of The Love Hypothesis, which was a book that I really enjoyed from last year. I'm not a huge romance reader, so it doesn't take too much to please me, but I also don't really love a lot of the tropes in romance, which is why I don't pick it up as often. But I really enjoyed The Love Hypothesis. It was like really cheesy and cute in a fun way, and I'm hoping this will be the same, but I've heard mixed-ish opinions on this. So if you've read Love on the Brain, let me know what you thought of it, because I'm so curious to see what I'm gonna think of it. Alrighty, the next few books are ones for my book club, which is the Reading Color Book Club, and I'm actually going to be reminding you about the September pick and then announcing the October pick, and then I'll also announce the November co-host, but I don't yet have the book confirmed for November, so I'll announce that on Instagram later. But basically, for those of you who don't know, the Reading Color Book Club is a book club where we read books by BIPOC authors, and we read and discuss and sort of expand our horizons or try to see ourselves in the fiction. And then we are joined by a co-host who shares the same background as the author of the book. And the co-host and I discuss in a live show at the beginning of the next month, and everyone gets to like weigh in and give their comments, and it's just a really fun time. And we also discuss the book on an app called Fable, which makes it really easy to like have these little chat rooms for each chapter of the book or section of the book and just discuss without spoiling yourself. So I started this book club back in November of 2021, and it's almost a year, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry because this just makes me so happy. So the Reading Color Book Club is turning 1 year old, which I'm just super excited for. So for fall, I'm going to be reading The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen. This is the September book club pick, which I've already announced previously. So this is just a reminder that this is the book. Go pick it up. This was a winner of the Pulitzer Prize, which is like astounding to me, and I've never actually read a Pulitzer Prize winning book, so I'm excited for that aspect. But this one, similar to Pachinko, which was our previous book club pick, has a historical aspect to it. It follows a man who is a communist double agent, and he is half French, half Vietnamese, and he comes to America after the fall of Saigon, and he was also an army captain. And so it's like this both spy novel, but also like thriller, but also like love story, and it's just got all these layers to it, and I think it's going to be a really good one. For this book, we are going to be joined by Elias, who is a wonderful booktuber and awesome human being. He'll be joining us for the live show, and he's actually the one who picked this book, so I'm excited to see what he thinks of this book as well. Alrighty, next up for October, I'm going to announce the co-host and the book of the month. So the co-host is Alexandria Ang, who is one of my dear friends and just a wonderful person overall. I get so many great book recommendations from her, and like they've never been misses. They are always amazing. So yeah, I just totally trust her taste in books. And when she suggested that we read Seeing Ghosts, a memoir by Kat Cho, I was super excited because we've never actually done a memoir for the book club, and I thought it would be a nice like change for once and just like a different story to hear. And this is obviously a memoir, so it's told by the author about her life, and she is starting out from a family that is shaped by loss, and it's something that sort of seeps into her own life and the way that she thinks about the world. And it follows generations of her family as they emigrate from China to Hong Kong to Cuba to America. And I think it's going to be a really interesting and also like heartbreaking story, and I feel like those are the best ones that we've read for the book club, so I'm really excited to pick this one up and for Alexandria to join us for the live show. Alrighty, and then for November, we haven't yet picked a book yet for this one, but I did want to tell everyone the co-host of the month, and that'll be Eamon from Eamon Books. Many of you probably know Eamon. She is a very famous TikToker, book talker. She's probably one of the biggest book talkers ever as well, and I'm so excited to have her on the channel to discuss a book for the month. Eamon is Pakistani American, so we will be choosing a book that has some Pakistani heritage to it. Hopefully we'll be able to announce that book very soon, so just keep your eyes peeled on the Reading Color Book Club Instagram, because that's where I provide most of the information about the book club. Alrighty, so with those books done, I do have a set of 4 books that I just randomly kind of want to read this fall. They have nothing to do with the season, but they are books that I've heard really great things about and that I want to pick up, and I'm just like in the mood to read them at the moment. So the first one is Severance by Ling Ma. This one I've actually already started reading. I was going to include it in my Hot Sad Girl books video, but I didn't get around to finishing it. But this one seems like a really interesting situation. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic book, and it follows like this millennial woman, and she's just sort of like going through it. It's definitely got those like Hot Sad Girl vibes, but it's also sort of a sci-fi because it's set in like this post-apocalyptic version of our world. So I'm just curious to see how those two things are gonna like mesh. So far it's going very well. The post-apocalyptic parts of it are like very minimal, but it's like interesting to see how the main character is interacting with her world pre and post the apocalypse, basically, which I am enjoying. So yeah, I'm curious to see what I think of this by the end, but if you've read this, let me know what you thought of it. The next book is also one that I'm in the middle of, and that is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I recently read this author's other book, Little Fires Everywhere, and absolutely fell in love with it. I'm currently actually watching the show, so I thought it was a good idea to pick up her other book, which I've heard many amazing things about. Many of you actually told me that you like this one even better than Little Fires Everywhere, so I have high hopes right now. I have started this one. So far it's going good. It's very much got a thriller vibe to it. It starts off with a murder, so overall I'm intrigued and I'm excited to see where it goes. Alrighty, the next book is one that I'm so excited to pick up because I've heard so many amazing things about it, and it seems like exactly up my alley because it combines 2 things I love. So that book is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and basically from what I know, this is both a love story but also like a video game book. It follows 2 people who are like video game designers who sort of join together, and it spans their life over 30 years as they're working on these video games and I believe get famous, and they are friends who are like not quite lovers but like almost there, and they can't like admit their feelings, I think. And that's just like a concept I love. I love romances where it's like the will they won't they, and they're just like silently pining for each other and then eventually get together. So I'm really, really excited for like the slow burn of this, but also the video game aspect of this. I love anything with video games in it. I personally loved like Slay by Brittany Morris. I loved like Free Guy, the movie. So although I don't like play a lot of video games, I just love seeing them in like fiction and like movies. So I'm really excited to see how this one goes because it's both got that video game and like romancy element to it. Alright, I have 6 more books that I want to talk about that I want to read for this fall. I am being really ambitious with this TBR, but given that this is a TBR for 3 whole months, I feel like maybe I can do this. So the next set of books that I have are all spooky or like fall related books. So I'm really excited to get into these because I've kind of been saving them for this season. And yeah, let's just get into it. So the first book is not super spooky, but it does have like the fall vibes, I think. And that is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I've heard really amazing things about this book in particular, but also about this author. And I'm really curious to read her newest book, which is Sea of Tranquility. But before that, I do want to read her first couple books. So I'm going to start with this one. And all I really know about this one is that it features a lot of Shakespeare, and it's also set at the end of civilization and like kind of in like apocalyptic situation. And those are two things that I'm excited to read about. I don't know much else, and I kind of want to keep it that way, but I do think this might deliver on some of the vibes that I'm looking for fall, mainly like the Shakespearean aspect and like sort of academic vibe, if you will, or like artistic vibe. I don't know why I associate this with fall, but that's just what I'm feeling. Alrighty, next I have a book that I've been waiting like literally all year to read, but I've been saving it for the fall and for Halloween time, and that book is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This book is a slasher, and it follows like a teenage girl, I think, who's really into slashers, and it's set at like this camp that was previously the site of like this huge massacre. And so it's got all these like slasher horror-y vibes to it, and I think it's gonna be fantastic to read during Halloween time. And I've also just heard really amazing things about it, so I'm super excited for this one. Next I have a collection of stories, and that is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This one I believe is like a series of short stories and interconnected stories, I think, and they all have some sort of sci-fi fantasy element to them and a bit of a horrific element to them, and they all have to do with the realities of women's lives and the violences that are visited upon their bodies. I think this is going to be a really interesting read, but I also have been saving it for the fall because I feel like it's got a little bit of that horror sci-fi fantasy element to it, so I think it'll be great for this season. Next I have a book that I sort of picked up on a whim just because of the title, and that is Hungry Ghosts by Sham Salvadore. This author is actually Tamil, and that's part of the reason why I bought a bunch of his books, and I've been meaning to read them. So I decided to start with Hungry Ghosts because this one has ghosts in it, and I feel like it fits the vibe of the season. It's got ghosts, particularly a grandma ghost who is haunting her grandson Shivan, who is a gay man living in Sri Lanka, and he's dealing with all these different things, but she's also getting him to carry out her needs and like put her at peace. I think this one's going to be a really interesting story and a generational story, but also tackling a lot of different themes while also having a little bit of like a speculative element to it, which I'm just really excited for. All right, this next book is one that I'm not sure it fits the season, but I still feel like I want to read it this fall because I'm hoping it'll have a little bit of a sinister aspect to it. So that book is Darling Girl by Liz Mikulski. This is a book that came in Book of the Month a while ago, and I was hoping to pick it up, but I never got around to it. Basically, in this book, Peter Pan is real, and the main character, Holly, is actually the granddaughter of Wendy. And so her daughter has like this whole little secret. Her name's Eden, and she gets taken by Peter Pan. And so Holly is trying to like save her daughter, and it's this whole story from there. And I believe Peter Pan is like more of a sinister figure in here than he is in like the Disney movies, which I'm just super excited for. So I feel like this one might end up having a little bit more of a sinister and thrilling vibe to it, which I'm just excited for and I think will be really fun for the season. Alrighty, the next book is one that I've been putting off reading for basically all year because again, I wanted to read this during the fall, and it's the perfect book to read during like spooky season because it's a gothic horror. And that book is The Hacienda by Isabel Canes. So this book is a mashup of Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia and Rebecca, the Classic by Daphne du Maurier. This is a supernatural suspense novel set after the Mexican War of Independence, and it's set in this like remote house. It's got some haunting aspects to it and a main character who's gonna be going through it during this gothic horror. I think this is gonna be fantastic, and it has the making of all of my favorite gothic horrors, so I'm hoping this one does not disappoint because I've been super excited for it. Alrighty, with that said, those are all of the books that I'm hoping to pick up this fall for September, October, and November. I think there's so many great books on this list, and this is quite an ambitious list, but we're gonna power through because I just really want to get through a lot of my TBR this fall. Definitely let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what you thought of them, and if any of these are also on your TBR. I would also love it if you guys would give me any of your recommendations for spooky, horror-y books for the fall and for spooky season, because I am on the hunt for more. I am probably going to be adding more to this TBR by the time October rolls around, but I'm just excited overall. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and definitely don't forget to check out Book of the Month and sign up for updates on the Canadian launch that's coming this fall. Go use that link down below to do that. As always, you guys can follow me on Instagram, at Twitter, Goodreads, and TikTok if you want to get regular updates on my reading and regular life, and I will see you in my next video. So please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!